It's a special day. This event is the Tel Aviv University Flagship event in London, in the best Israeli tradition that we are always right on time.
Really, in psychiatry and psychology, there's only one disorder that has a very definite cause. It starts with a trauma, a real trauma that happens in life. It could be combat, but it could also be in civilian context. Car accident, a violent attack, rape. So if you were driving a car when your convoy was ambushed and there were big explosions, okay? You have a sound that otherwise may not be a threat, or driving may not be a threat on everyday life, but it gets paired with the traumatic event. These processes are happening in quite clear structures in the brain. It happens in the amygdala. If you look at these orange spots here, these are the amygdala. We have two of them.
Okay, so we all know that life on Earth cannot exist without water, right? We all know that, I'm sure we know that. And that all living organisms contain water, and actually our body contains 70% water. And water is used for drinking, and we need water for our food production, but we need also water for other uses, such as bathing, transportation, manufacturing, and even energy production. More than 1/3 of humans will live in areas without a sufficient amount of water. Basically, I'm talking about living with less than 10 liters of water per day. Basically, 60% of the water in Israel goes to the agriculture. Almost 40% is domestic, and less than 10% is the industry. And out of this 60%, not all this water is potable. Do you know what potable water is? It's water that actually we can directly drink, okay? More than 50% of the water from the agriculture is recycled in brackish water. And basically, Israel is #1 in the world in reusing water. We reuse 85% of our wastewater. Just as a fact, Spain uses 20-something%, I think. So we're #1 in the world in sustainability and in water reuse.
It's really a pleasure being here today and seeing this crowd. I'm very proud. You know, we shouldn't take it for granted that we are all here. Tel Aviv University today is really the leading university in Israel. It's the largest university in Israel, 30,000 students, but it's also the first choice of students in Israel.
So what is the stem cells? Stem cells are cells that can proliferate and become many cells of the same type, but in certain time, or in the body, or in the dish, they can be differentiated to specific type of cells, like neurons or muscle cells. And indeed, in the United States, embryonic stem cells was not allowed on money that came from the government, which reduced the speed of the research in the United States. Then Obama, you see the scientists look much more happy, and indeed Obama said, okay, we can do it, but still there are many problems. And now we have a scaffold with specific cells that might support the neurons, and we went on to this experiment. And here we use rats, and sorry for the picture, but we cut the spinal cord, as is. And the next step was to take this scaffold with the cells, put inside, in between, and close it with another piece of scaffold, land it back, and look on these rats. And the experiment, of course, was controlled. One group was the cells, one group was only with scaffold without the cells, and another group is cells with other scaffold, all the control that you can imagine. Okay, so look on the next movie. And here, this is scaffold without cells. 50 days after the operation, we cut here.
You probably know bats are mammals, the only flying mammals. But what many of you might not know is how successful bats are. So actually more than 20% of mammalian species are bats, more than 1,200 species, and the numbers are constantly growing. And the diversity of bats, as you can see here behind me, is immense. Okay? What you see here are different feeding strategies used by bats, from bats that suck blood, not in Europe or in Israel, but in Central America, through bats that eat fish, nectar, all of them are beautiful, of course, frogs, and and many bats that feed on insects. Okay, all of you know the Iron Dome. You're very proud of the Iron Dome, I guess. This bat is 1,000 times more sophisticated than in our Iron Dome. I'm holding a very primitive, very simple ultrasonic detector, and I want you all to do this movement with your fingers. You know, have them touching each other. You hear very slight sound. Okay, somebody should photograph this. So this is a very simple ultrasonic detector, and I will not force you to do this again, but this produces a lot of ultrasound. Okay, a lot of some low frequency noise and a lot of ultrasound. And if I will now do this in front of the detector, okay. So what this detector is now doing, it is detecting high ultrasound. If there was a bat flying in this room at this moment, you would have heard nothing. And if I would turn this machine on, you would have heard something like this. This is the sonar signal, the high frequency sonar signal of the bat that is constantly being emitted.
The topic now that will be done through a conversation with Professor Ellen Johnson from BICOM is on from Arab Spring to ISIS, the meaning for Israel and the region. And again, this is the third time I hear. Every time we think we know the Middle East, we think there is nothing new to tell us. Boy, I'm wrong every time.
We're here really to talk about a catastrophic development from the high hopes we had in 2011 of the Arab Spring to the nightmare of ISIS. And we're going to be hearing from the region and from Israel how that looks. Briefly, to set it up, how does it look from London? I think we are watching acts on our television screen every day that are departing from the norms of human behavior. We're watching beheadings, and we're watching burnings, we're watching children and women being sold into slavery, and we really are utterly shocked.
But multiculturalism assumes that other cultures are other, therefore multi. Yet, when you look at the Middle East from outside, it's politically incorrect to recognize the otherness of the other. So you have the just like us syndrome. So there are an uprising in Tahrir, in Cairo, that's democracy is on the way. And when people said, like experts in Israel said, this is probably not democracy on the way, but the Muslim Brethren on the way, we were ridiculed by people in the West. You people don't like Arabs, you're anti-Arab, you prefer the dictators to the Democrats, you dinosaurs, there were all sorts of terms. But we got it right, not wrong. So ISIS is a problem, it is a threat, but ISIS has its limitations. They lost the fight for Kobani, that town on the border between Syria and Iraq, for which ISIS fought for 6 months and was eventually the Kurds beat them thanks also to the bombing of the US. They have faced some serious losses in Iraq. They haven't really made further gains since the summer of 2014. So I think with all the barbarity of ISIS, one shouldn't exaggerate their real power.
We are living in uncertain times. And yet we know that one of the greatest reasons for the survival of the Jewish people through thousands of years of uncertain times is the importance and value we place on education. Tel Aviv University's success is Israel's success, is our success. And together we can build a brighter future for us all. Thank you.
Thank you.